In the 1950s, Las Vegas was the world's safe playground, even though it was secretly run by criminals. Tourists walked the strip with pockets full of cash and dined on $1 steaks, while the Chicago outfit and New York mob families raked millions out the back doors, no questions asked. But how did the most dangerous men in America transform sin into luxury? And what really happened once you stepped off the casino floor? The truth behind this golden age is not what you have been told. Ownership of the Strip in the 1950s was a game of shadows. On paper, the sands belonged to Jack Entratter, and Wilbur Clark ran the Desert Inn. But the real muscle came from men whose names never appeared on the neon. The Chicago outfit, led by Anthony Accardo and overseen in Vegas by Marshall Caifano, funneled money into the sands and the Stardust. The New York families, including the Genovese and Lucchese crews, staked silent claims in the Flamingo and the Dunes, working through front men and silent partners. At the center of this hidden empire stood Mo Dalitz, the Cleveland syndicate boss who controlled the Desert Inn and later the Stardust, weaving alliances with both Chicago and New York. The Flamingo set the blueprint. It opened in 1946 with Bugsy Siegel as the public face, its funding coming from Meyer Lansky's East Coast network and Midwestern mob cash. After Siegel's murder, Mo Sedway and Gus Greenbaum took over and turned the casino into a prototype for mob-backed legitimacy. FBI charts from the Kefauver hearings in 1950 mapped these connections, showing how millions in post-war profits were laundered through a web of legitimate businesses and straw men. By the mid-1950s, nearly every casino on the Strip had hidden partners. The suits at the tables were only part of the story. The real landlords met in back rooms, counted cash behind closed doors, and made sure the city's golden glow never dimmed. In the back rooms of every major casino, the real business of Las Vegas played out far from the slot machines and showgirls. Every night, trusted men, never the same face 2 days in a row, gathered in the count rooms to separate bills. The process was simple but precise. A stack for the state, a stack for the books, and a stack for the suitcase. That last pile, always in small denominations, never touched the ledgers. By sunrise, those suitcases were loaded into trunks, driven out past the city limits, or sometimes flown east on commercial flights. FBI memos from 1957 tracked this ritual, money leaving the sands and the Flamingo, bound for Chicago, Kansas City, or Cleveland. No receipts, no questions. On the casino floor, the effect was pure hospitality. The mob did not care about room revenue. They wanted bodies at the tables, chips in play, and cash to skim. That is why a room at the Stardust could be had for $2 and a steak dinner for $1, prices plastered across Las Vegas Sun ads. Drinks flowed for free, and the average Joe from Detroit or Des Moines could live like a high roller for a weekend. The logic was ruthless. The more you spent, the more they took. But the guest never felt the pinch. The real winners were the men counting stacks in the shadows, moving millions with a nod and a handshake, while the city sparkled out front. If you snatched a purse on the Strip in 1954, you did not end up in a police car. You ended up behind a locked door, facing men who never wore uniforms, but carried more authority than any badge. Dealers and waitresses knew the routine. 1 minute a petty thief tried his luck, the next he was gone, escorted through a side door by silent enforcers. Two-way mirrors lined the hallways behind the casino floor, giving the watchful eyes of the house a perfect view of every move, every face. Surveillance was not about cameras, it was about muscle and memory. UNLV dealer testimonies describe what happened next. A warning, sometimes a beating, always a message. The thief never returned. FBI memos from 1957 noted how these incidents vanished from public record, replaced by an eerie calm on the Strip. For tourists, The result was a strange kind of safety. You could walk with a pocket full of cash at 3 in the morning, untouched. Not because crime did not exist, but because the mob made sure it never touched the money. The real law in Las Vegas lived in the shadows, enforced by men whose names you would never know. Nothing on the Strip moved without the nod from the pit boss. He was the quiet king of the casino floor, perched between the tables with a watchful eye and a memory for faces. Dealers, valets, and cocktail waitresses worked a delicate dance around him, each one relying on the unspoken rules that kept the place humming. Tipping wasn't just good manners, it was survival. A folded bill slipped to the pit boss could mean a comped meal, a better table, or a problem quietly solved. Regulars learned fast. Tip the bartender, and your glass never emptied. Tip the valet, and your car was waiting, engine running, even if you stayed out till sunrise. For workers, a generous player might mean a week's rent in a single night. For guests, the right handshake could open any door. UNLV oral histories tell of pit bosses who would comp a steak dinner for life if you showed the right kind of respect. In this world, everyone knew who held the real power, and everyone learned how to play the game. After midnight, the real show began in the lounges. Frank Sinatra would slip off stage and wander into the Copa room at the Sands, where Dean Martin was already holding court with a glass of bourbon. There were no velvet ropes, no security lines, just a swirl of gamblers, showgirls, and men in tailored suits, all packed shoulder to shoulder. If you wanted a seat near the stage, you did not need a reservation. You just needed to bet big enough or tip the right dealer. Money opened every door. On a good night, Sinatra might grab the mic and crash Dean's set, or Sammy Davis Jr. would leap up from the audience to join in. The laughter was loud, the rules were loose, and nobody cared what time it was. High rollers traded jokes with movie stars, and nobody blinked if a known mobster bought a round for the room. In these lounges, the city's boundaries melted. You could find yourself sharing a booth with a Hollywood legend, or a man whose name was whispered in FBI files. The only thing that mattered was how much you were willing to play, and how late you could last. On the Strip, the lights never dimmed, but a hard line ran through the city that no neon could hide. Black entertainers like Sammy Davis Jr. could sell out the Sands every night, then slip out the back and drive to the Westside because no hotel on the Strip would give him a room. The Moulin Rouge opened its doors in 1955 as the first integrated hotel casino in Las Vegas, promising a new kind of freedom. For 3 months it drew the biggest names: Davis, Lena Horne, Nat King Cole, playing to mixed crowds, dancing until sunrise. But the experiment didn't last. City pressure and financial sabotage closed the Moulin Rouge almost as quickly as it began, and segregation snapped back into place. Westside residents remember a city split in two. The fantasy of the Strip, all white tablecloths and velvet ropes, and the reality of Jackson Avenue, where black workers and stars alike found their only welcome. Sammy Davis wrote that he could sing for 1,000 strangers, but couldn't order a sandwich in the lounge. The glamour of the mob era Vegas always came with a cost, and for many, the price was paid in silence and separation. In 1966, Howard Hughes checked into the Desert Inn and never really left. For weeks he lived in the penthouse, curtains drawn, and his name hidden on the guest ledger. Then he bought the place outright, paying $13.2 million in cash. Over the next few years, Hughes scooped up the Sands, the Frontier, and the Castaways, not for glamour, but to push out the old guard. His arrival meant accountants instead of enforcers, and the Nevada Gaming Commission had a new ally with deep pockets and no mob ties. The rules began to change. The Gaming Control Act had already created the Black Book, but Hughes brought something the mob never did: a corporate pricing model. The $2 rooms and $1 steaks started to vanish. Complimentary policies tightened. Suddenly, the casino owner wasn't at the bar buying you a drink, he was in a boardroom balancing spreadsheets. The Strip's velvet handshake turned cold, and the city's pulse shifted from the count room to the quarterly report. Vegas no longer runs on handshakes or shadows, but its paradox endures. The city's safest era was built on the sharpest edge. As corporations chase nostalgia with higher prices, the question lingers. Can a place founded on risk ever feel truly authentic again? Drop your thoughts below.